geckos, arguably one of the most adorable and popular pet geckos in the world, with more than 2 million geckos sold in the US alone, and the leopard gecko ranking number 3 in the most popular reptiles list. The leopard gecko is no joke when it comes to popularity. Introduced to the pet trade in the 1960s, the animal quickly rose in popularity, and like any animal coming from the wild, people debated on how we should keep them in captivity. This raised the question of cohabitation. Making its debut shortly after the animal was introduced to captivity, the idea of cohabitation has intrigued people for years. In this video, I aim to enlighten people on this topic and share my personal experiences with leopard gecko cohabitation. Before we go further, we must understand what cohabitation is and why it's so controversial. Cohabitation is the housing of more than one animal in a shared space. Typically, when we talk about cohabitating animals, we refer to them as the same species. Some examples of cohabitation can be observed in the aquarium hobby, where some species of fish need others to thrive. Social animals need others of their kind in order to display healthy behaviors and thrive in captivity. Cohabitating and understanding how an animal lives allows us as pet owners to have our very own window into nature, sitting in our own houses. So, if cohabitating can allow us to improve our animals' lives and have an accurate peek into nature, why is it so controversial among leopard geckos? While cohabitation has its benefits, it's not to say it doesn't come with some risks. Cohabitation done incorrectly can come with some serious consequences, including death and serious injury for the animal. However, when it comes to leopard geckos, the question of should we cohabitate these animals comes down to one major factor. Are leopard geckos a social animal? Like I said earlier, cohabitation is common and a requirement for some social species of animals. To answer the question of are leopard geckos a social animal, we have to look back at the leopard gecko's origin in the wild. While little is actually known about the leopard gecko in the wild, there are a couple of studies done. Specifically, I'll be drawing from a research paper done by Mohammed Sharif Khan and a few other resources I found while researching, as well as my own personal experience. Mohammed is a college professor in Pakistan and has his PhD in zoology, so he's more than qualified for the job. In Mohammed's paper, he says that leopard geckos are, quote, gregarious, they colonize crevices and holes in a stone wall, end quote. Mohammed talks about the gecko's social life and how they colonize together with, quote, a pre-breeding colony mostly consists of several subadults and adults, end quote. The young males fight and a dominant male rises, leaving the other males to go off and start their own colonies. He further explains how the geckos will colonize a stone wall and share a spot to defecate in. Overall, what Mohammed observed is clearly a social animal. Now let's face the issue of, should we cohabitate leopard geckos in captivity? In short, I believe we should, but we need to be careful and be smart about doing it. Cohabitating can provide social stimulation and habitat enrichment for your gecko, which can help improve the quality of life and prolong the life of your gecko if done properly. In my personal experiences, I have kept leopard geckos alone for 6 years and have cohabitated for 3. I had gotten my 2 female geckos that I cohabitated as baby clutch mates, meaning they are sisters. They started out in a 20-gallon glass aquarium, and as I did more research, I moved them into a 40-gallon bioactive enclosure. In this enclosure, I drew information on what it should look like from Mohammed's paper. He describes them living in rocky outcroppings with diverse cave networks and climbing space. I have future plans to upgrade and potentially add another gecko to the mix, so make sure you're subscribed and comment if that's something you're interested in seeing. So, how should we do this properly, and how shouldn't we do this? This is by no means a care guide, but it is important that you provide enough space for your geckos. Generally, I would say 20 to 40 gallons per leopard gecko of space, 2 hides per gecko, and multiple basking spots. Providing ample opportunity for all of their needs as well as providing equal amounts of food should prevent any scuffles, although it is not uncommon for geckos to get slightly more aggressive during feeding. On that note, I suggest beginner keepers should not cohabitate leopard geckos. As a beginner, starting with one always allows you to dial in on your care and see for yourself how leopard geckos behave. Coming back to cohabitation, what we should not be doing is putting multiple adult males in the same space. As described in Muhammad's paper, the males fight for dominance, and if the lesser male does not run away, the dominant male will kill it. It is incredibly important that you retain a proper ratio. A popular ratio is 1 male to 2 females. Reason being because having an extra female can reduce the breeding stress on the other female, by keeping up with the breeding demands by the male. However, I plan on experimenting with other combinations, including more females in the future, to create a more ideal environment. So the key takeaways you should be gathering from this is that while it's not exactly easy to cohabitate these amazing creatures, it can be incredibly rewarding and quite beneficial if you can manage to do it. I hope we continue to research and explore this topic in the future to help us better keep them in our homes. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.